Hi, English 11 students. Mrs. Kirchhoff here. I wanted to give you an example of what you need to do on this commenting tools assignment, especially for those of you that are in the gold group and won't be in class on Thursday when we work on this together. So for this assignment, just like last time, you are going to reread the article and we are going to highlight examples of logos, pathos, and ethos. And then we'll make comments on the side where we label what we highlighted and then we explain why that example fits that rhetorical device. I've also included the pre-writing chart at the bottom. So we'll copy and paste the examples that you highlighted into this chart and do something with that for your draft as well. So when you were completing the Pear Deck, there were actually examples from this article embedded in there. So let's start with those. So one of the first examples that was an example of credibility was this right here, right? The fact that we have multiple authors and this article is coming from the Harvard Business Review. So I am going to, first thing I'm going to do is highlight that and click Control C to copy it. So I can add it to my chart in a moment. Then over here, I'm going to label this credibility. And I'm going to say why. So this is an example of credibility because the Harvard Business Review is a reliable source of information. So then I would click comment to post that. I would scroll down to the bottom and you can see the three devices are labeled here. So I'm going to find credibility and then Control V to paste what I just highlighted. So now that's in there on my chart. So you need to find 4 more examples in the article where we see credibility being used as a rhetorical device to the reader. We also see examples of logic in this article. So I'm going to scroll down to the second page here and towards the bottom, this paragraph where it says, we are clearly not the first to take note of the potential costs of smartphones. Think about the number of fatalities associated with driving while talking on the phone or texting, or of texting while walking. So I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to copy it so I can put it into my chart in a moment. And this is a great example of emotional appeal. I'm going to label that in my comment box, emotional appeal. This is an example of emotional appeal because the authors are using powerful language and they reference fatalities associated with phone usage. Right? That really caught our attention when we read through this, the fact that people have died from driving and texting or being on the phone. So I'm going to post that. I've highlighted this, I copied it. So now I'm going to go down here and on my chart under emotional appeal, I'm going to paste that in. All right, I also want to give you an example of logic being used in this article. So I'm just referencing my notes here. We have lots of examples of logic being used in this article. The one that I want to show you guys is back on the first page, the second paragraph here. And right around here, it says, in one task, participants simultaneously completed math problems and memorized random letters. This tests how well they can keep track of task-relevant information while engaging in complex cognitive tasks. In the second task, participants saw a set of images that formed an incomplete pattern and chose the image that best completed the pattern. This task measures fluid intelligence, or people's ability to reason and solve problems. Performance on both of these tasks is affected by individuals' available mental resources. So this is a really long passage. I probably wouldn't highlight all of this as one example. I would maybe break it into two, just so when I paste it into my chart, it's not as long. What I'm going to do is identify this first task right here. So these two sentences go together. So this, I'm going to copy this here, Control C, and then over on the side, I'm going to make a note that this is an example of logic. Because the authors are defining um, the terms and conditions of the research for the readers. So we can identify logos in an article or logic in an article when we have a definition of terms. And I think we see that here because they're explaining how this experiment or how this research study went, and they're defining the terms for us here. So I've highlighted this up here and I copied it. Now I'm going to drop it into my chart down here, and I'm going to paste this with Control V. And now I've got one example for each. So what you need to do to finish this assignment is go through the rest of the article and do exactly what I did. You need to find 4 more examples of logos, pathos, and ethos. You need to highlight them, explain why in the comment box, and then copy them into this chart. Once you've completed that and your chart is filled, you're going to choose one column that you thought was the strongest. You thought the author had a great variety of logos or a great variety of emotional appeal. So then you would highlight, you can even highlight what column you want to use, right? So what's the one column you're picking? Highlight that here in yellow. And then you'll look at your 5 examples and you'll pick the 3 that are the strongest. So I want you to pick the 3 examples that are have different variety. So one thing I want to caution you with, if you use credibility, there are a lot of examples in this article where the authors are referencing their research. And so that is an example of credibility when we're referencing research. But if you choose 5 sentences over here where they start off, in our research shows, our research states, then your paragraph, when you eventually get there, it's going to be kind of boring because all of your reasons are the same. Okay, so maybe you have one that's referencing, I would go with, I think there's a lot of variety of logos in here. So like this is a definition of terms. Maybe you have an example of logos that is demonstrating data. Maybe you have one example of logos that is cause and effect. Those are 3 different methods of using logos. So that's the most variety, and that's definitely very, very strong for us. So you would say, okay, yep, this is a strong example. I'm going to highlight that over here in yellow. Nope, that's not a great example. Going to leave that one alone. Oh, this one's really good. I'm going to highlight that in yellow until you have 3 of them in one column highlighted. Okay. On Monday, you are going to start drafting a rhetorical paragraph again based on this cell phone article. The paragraph will be very, very extremely easy to write if you've gone through this process of highlighting examples in the article, making your comments, and then completing the chart. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free to reach out. You know how to get a hold of me. Gold group, we will be working, we can revisit this in class on Friday if you guys have questions, but I wanted to create this video so you could at least attempt it on your own when you're working asynchronously on Thursday. All right, take care, guys. Again, don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions.